I stood at my own apartment door, suitcase in hand after 3 months caring for my dying sister in Arizona, and stared at the woman blocking my entrance. My daughter-in-law, Jennifer, crossed her arms and smirked. "Old lady, did you get the owner's permission to be here?" My son Bradley stood behind her, grinning. I blinked, confused. This was my apartment. I'd owned it for 32 years. Before I could speak, Jennifer reached for my suitcase. "You can't just show up unannounced." That's when I understood everything. I pushed past Jennifer, my shoulder connecting with hers harder than I intended. The hallway that greeted me stopped me cold. My beige walls were now painted a deep charcoal gray. The watercolor painting of the Golden Gate Bridge that my late husband bought me on our 20th anniversary was gone. In its place hung an enormous abstract canvas of angry red slashes. "What have you done?" I whispered, my throat tight. Jennifer stepped beside me, her perfume overwhelming in the small space. "We redecorated." "You don't like it?" I walked further into what used to be my living room. My grandmother's oak rocking chair was gone. The cream sofa where I'd nursed Bradley through chicken pox, where I'd read him bedtime stories every night for 6 years, had vanished. In its place sat a black leather sectional that looked like it belonged in a nightclub. The mahogany coffee table my father built by hand had been replaced with a glass and chrome monstrosity. "Where are my things?" My voice came out stronger now. "Where's my furniture?" Bradley appeared from the kitchen, holding a beer. At 3 in the afternoon, "Mom, we donated most of it. Some of it we had to throw out. It was old." "Old?" I turned to face him. "That rocking chair was from 1873. Your great-great-grandmother brought it from Virginia." He shrugged. "It was falling apart. Listen, we need to talk about why you're here. Why I'm here. This is my home, Bradley. I've lived here since before you were born." Jennifer laughed, a sharp sound like breaking glass. "Actually, about that." She walked to the kitchen counter and picked up a manila folder. "Things have changed while you were gone." My hands trembled as I reached for my keys, intending to prove ownership somehow. That's when I noticed my key hadn't worked in the lock. I'd knocked on my own door because my key didn't fit. "You changed the locks," I said. "We had to," Bradley said, "for security." Jennifer opened the folder and pulled out several documents. "Your son owns this apartment now. You signed it over to him before you left for Arizona." The room tilted. I grabbed the back of the leather sofa to steady myself. "I did no such thing." "You did, Mom. You signed the papers. Remember? You said you wanted to make sure everything was taken care of if something happened to you." Bradley's voice was patient, like he was speaking to a child. "I signed no papers. I would never sign away my home." Jennifer spread the documents on the counter. I moved closer, my reading glasses shaking in my hands as I put them on. The top document was a deed transfer. My signature was at the bottom. Except it wasn't my signature. It was close, but the S in scarlet looped wrong. I always looped it twice. This one only looped once. "This is forged," I said. "Mom, you're confused. You probably don't remember because you were so stressed about Aunt Helen." Bradley's tone shifted, became condescending. "It's okay. You're getting older. Memory issues are normal. My memory is fine. I never signed this." Jennifer stepped closer to me. "Mrs. Patterson, have you been feeling confused lately? Forgetting things? Your son mentioned you called him several times from Arizona, asking where you'd put items that were right in front of you." That was true. I had called Bradley twice, asking about my sister's insurance papers, which turned out to be in the folder I was holding. But that was grief and exhaustion, not dementia. "I want you both out of my apartment. Now." Bradley exchanged a glance with Jennifer. She nodded slightly. "This isn't your apartment anymore, Mom. We have the deed. We've already consulted with a lawyer who confirmed everything is legal and binding. You signed over the property. The county has the records. It's done. Then I'll call my lawyer. I'll call the police. This is fraud." "Go ahead," Jennifer said sweetly. "Call them. Show them the deed with your signature. Explain to them how you don't remember signing it. See what they say about your mental state. The threat hung in the air. If I claimed I didn't remember signing, I sounded incompetent. If I claimed forgery, I needed proof I didn't have. I need to get some things from my bedroom. Our bedroom now, Jennifer corrected. And no, you can't. We'll send you your personal items once we sort through everything. My medication is in the bathroom cabinet. My blood pressure pills. Bradley sighed. What's the name? I'll bring them to you. I want to get them myself. Mom, you're being difficult. Just tell me what you need. Before I could answer, Jennifer picked up her phone. Maybe we should call building security. Get someone here to help explain the situation. You'd call security on me? Your own mother? I stared at Bradley. You're trespassing, Jennifer said simply. We're trying to be kind about this, but you're not listening. Bradley wouldn't meet my eyes. Just give us a few days to sort through your stuff, okay? We'll box everything up and you can pick it up. Where exactly am I supposed to go? Don't you have friends? What about Paula? You're always talking about Paula. Jennifer checked her watch like I was wasting her time. 5 minutes later, a security guard I'd known for 7 years stood in my doorway. Frank looked uncomfortable as Jennifer explained that I was Bradley's mother, that I was confused, that I didn't understand Bradley now owned the apartment. Frank looked at the deed documents. He looked at me. Mrs. Patterson, is this your son? Yes. But Frank, you know I own this apartment. You've seen me here for years. I know, ma'am, but these papers show Mr. Patterson as the owner. I'm sorry, but if he's asking you to leave, I have to enforce that. Frank, please. This is a mistake. They've forged these documents. Bradley stepped forward. See? She's not well. She's making accusations. This is exactly what we were worried about. Frank's expression shifted from uncomfortable to pitying. He thought I was a confused old woman. They all did. Ma'am, why don't you come with me? We can call someone to come get you. I don't need anyone to get me. I need you to recognize that this is theft. But Frank was already gently taking my elbow, guiding me toward the door. I looked back at Bradley. My son. The boy I'd raised alone after his father died. The child I'd worked 2 jobs to put through college. He was drinking his beer, scrolling through his phone, completely unmoved. Jennifer waved, her smile cold. We'll be in touch about your things. The door closed. The deadbolt clicked. I stood in the hallway with my suitcase, my purse, and nothing else. Frank walked me to the elevator, riding down with me in silence. In the lobby, he paused. Mrs. Patterson, do you have somewhere to go? Of course I do. I lied. He nodded, clearly relieved. Take care of yourself. I walked out onto the street. It was 4:30 on a Tuesday afternoon in September. The sun was still warm. People walked past with shopping bags and briefcases, heading home from work. Normal people going to their normal homes. I sat down on the bench outside my building, the same bench where I used to wait for Bradley's school bus, where I'd sat and cried the day they told me my husband's cancer was terminal, where I'd read countless books and drunk countless cups of coffee over 3 decades. Now I sat there with everything I owned in a single suitcase, locked out of my own life. The Sunset Motel on Route 74 wasn't the kind of place I'd ever imagined staying. The carpet in the lobby was the color of old blood, worn thin in paths to the desk and the vending machines. The clerk, a young man with tired eyes, didn't ask questions when I paid cash for 3 nights. $135, which left me with $63 in my wallet until I could get to my bank. The room smelled like bleach and cigarettes. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall, until darkness fell. Then I stared some more. At 7 in the morning, I called my bank. The automated system said my checking account balance was $53.19. My savings account, where I'd had $63,412 last time I checked, showed a balance of 0. I pressed 0 repeatedly until I got a human being. This is Scarlett Patterson. There's been a mistake with my accounts. My savings account is empty. The representative, a woman named Tamara, asked for my information. I heard typing. Mrs. Patterson, I see several large withdrawals over the past 6 weeks. The last one was yesterday for $18,500. I didn't authorize any withdrawals. I've been in Arizona. More typing. The withdrawals were made by Bradley Patterson, using his power of attorney access to your accounts. What power of attorney? I never gave anyone power of attorney. According to our records, you added Mr. Patterson to your accounts on June 15th with full power of attorney privileges. The notarized documents are in our system. My hands went cold. I was already in Arizona on June 15th. My sister was dying. I couldn't have signed anything. The documents show your signature and a notary seal. Mrs. Patterson, if you're claiming fraud, you'll need to file a police report and bring it to us. Until then, the withdrawals were legal. I hung up and sat very still. Bradley had stolen everything. Not just my home, everything. The business card for Gerald Brennan, attorney at law, was still in my wallet from 2 years ago when I'd updated my will. My real will. The one that left everything to Bradley but only after my death, not while I was still breathing. Gerald's office was in a strip mall between a nail salon and a tax preparation service. His secretary, a grandmother with kind eyes, fit me in immediately when I explained the situation. Gerald listened to everything without interrupting. He was in his 50s, built like he'd been an athlete once, with gray creeping into his dark hair. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. This is elder financial abuse. It's more common than people think, and prosecuting family members is difficult but not impossible. Can you help me? I can try. But I'm going to be honest with you, Mrs. Patterson. Without the original deed, this will be complicated. Let me make some calls. I paid him the last $200 in my wallet as a retainer. He promised to contact me within 2 days. I spent those 2 days in the motel room, eating vending machine crackers, and trying to understand how my own son could do this to me. On the 3rd day, Gerald called. I pulled the records from the county. Scarlett. They show Bradley as the owner of that apartment for the past 8 years. That's impossible. I know, which means someone altered the digital records. The county keeps paper backups, but the clerk, Phyllis Henderson, says there's no paper deed on file for that address before Bradley's name. Either they destroyed it or misplaced it, but without it, proving your ownership becomes much harder. So what do? We file suit claiming forgery and fraud. But Scarlett, litigation like this takes months, sometimes years, and it's expensive. We're talking about $20,000 to $30,000 minimum. I laughed, a broken sound. I have $63. Gerald was quiet for a moment. Let me see what I can do. Don't give up yet. But giving up felt inevitable when I tried my credit card that evening and it was declined. When I called the bank again, they informed me Bradley had canceled the card since he was an authorized user on the account. I tried calling Paula, my best friend for 16 years. We'd taken painting classes together, traveled to Santa Fe twice, spent every Thursday having lunch at the cafe near the park. Paula answered on the 4th ring. Scarlett, I heard what happened. I'm so sorry. Can I stay with you for a few days? Just until I sort this out. Oh, honey, I wish I could, but Jennifer called me. She explained about your condition. She said you might reach out and say some confusing things. My condition? Paula, I don't have a condition. They've stolen my home and my money. Jennifer said you might say that. She said it's part of the dementia, that you don't realize you signed papers. Scarlett, I think you need to see a doctor. Let Bradley help you get the care you need. You think I'm crazy? My voice broke. I think you're confused. I think you need help. I can't enable this by letting you stay here. I'm sorry. She hung up. I called 3 other friends. Jennifer had reached them all. Not one believed me. That night, I slept in my car in the parking garage on 5th Street. I'd let the motel room go because I couldn't pay for another night. The back seat of my Toyota was surprisingly cold in September. I used my coat as a blanket and my suitcase as a pillow. I thought about my sister, Helen. I'd held her hand as she died. had stayed for 2 weeks after the funeral to settle her affairs. She'd had so little in the end. A rented house, some clothes, her medical debt. I'd paid for her cremation with my savings. The same savings Bradley had now stolen. Helen had always warned me that Bradley was selfish. "That boy only calls when he wants something," she'd said. I'd defended him every time. "He's busy with his career. He's trying to make something of himself." Helen had been right. I'd been blind. On the 5th morning of living in my car, I woke to chest pain. Sharp, squeezing pain that radiated down my left arm. I tried to sit up, and the world spun. My phone was dead, the charger buried somewhere in my suitcase. I managed to get out of the car, managed to stumble toward the parking garage attendant's booth. The attendant, a college student named Chris, took one look at me and called 911. The ambulance ride was a blur. The emergency room was bright and cold and full of strangers asking questions. Yes, I was having chest pain. Yes, it hurt to breathe. No, I didn't have insurance cards with me. They were in my apartment, which wasn't my apartment anymore. A young doctor with a name tag reading Dr. Patel explained I'd had a mild heart attack. The medical term was NSTEMI. They were admitting me for observation and tests. "You're very lucky," she said. "You got here in time." I didn't feel lucky. They kept me for 4 days. The social worker, Diane, appeared on day 3. She was in her 40s, professional but not unkind, carrying a tablet and wearing an expression I'd seen on people's faces a lot lately. Pity mixed with concern. "Mrs. Patterson, I need to talk to you about your living situation." "I don't have one." "Yes, I'm aware. Your son Bradley has been in contact with us." Of course he had. "He's filed an emergency petition with the court. He's asking for temporary conservatorship over you." What does that mean? It means he's asking the court to grant him legal authority over your financial and personal decisions. He claims you're not capable of caring for yourself. The heart monitor beside my bed beeped faster. That's a lie. He's provided evidence. The incident where you, according to building security, tried to force your way into his apartment. The fact that you were living in your car. He's submitted letters from 2 doctors stating you show signs of advancing dementia. What doctors? "I haven't seen a doctor in 6 months, except for you people here." Diane looked uncomfortable. "I can't speak to the validity of his claims. But there's a hearing scheduled for Monday. That's 5 days from now. You'll have a chance to contest it. If he wins this conservatorship, what happens? He would control your finances, your medical decisions, where you live. He'd be your legal guardian, essentially. He's already stolen everything from me. Now he wants to make it legal. I understand this is difficult. I've contacted legal aid services. Someone will reach out to you about representation. But I knew what would happen. I'd show up at a hearing looking like exactly what Bradley claimed I was. A confused old woman with no home, no money, living in her car. Every piece of evidence supported his story. Gerald called that afternoon. "Scarlett, I heard about the conservatorship filing. This complicates everything. Can you fight it?" Fighting it means fighting the property case and the conservatorship simultaneously. We're talking about $40,000 in legal fees, minimum. And even then, the conservatorship case looks bad. You were found living in your car. You have a documented heart attack from stress. Bradley's lawyers are going to paint you as unable to care for yourself. So I just let him win? I'm not saying that. I'm saying we need to be strategic. And I've found something interesting. I've been looking into Jennifer's background. And her father is Harold Chen, retired judge, served for 23 years. Still has a lot of connections in the court system and the county offices. Chen, Jennifer's maiden name. The same Chen who was friends with the county clerk. The pieces clicked together. So this wasn't just Bradley's idea. I think this was planned carefully by people who knew exactly how to manipulate the system. Harold Chen has the connections to make records disappear, to grease wheels. This is bigger than your son acting alone. That makes it worse, doesn't it? I'm not just fighting Bradley. I'm fighting a retired judge with political connections. Gerald didn't answer, which was answer enough. The hospital released me on day 4 with a bill for $12,347 that I couldn't pay. Since Bradley was listed as my next of kin, they'd contacted him about the bill. According to the billing department, he'd refused to pay and stated I was estranged from the family. What happens if I can't pay? I asked the billing clerk. We'll set up a payment plan, or we can refer you to county assistance programs. County assistance. Welfare. At 67 years old, after working since I was 16, I was going to need government assistance because my son had stolen my life savings. I had nowhere to go, so I went back to my car. But now I had medications I needed to take. Blood pressure pills, a statin, baby aspirin. The pharmacy wanted $234 for the prescriptions. I had $63. The pharmacist, a middle-aged woman with tired eyes, saw me counting change from my purse. "Let me see what I can do," she said quietly. She came back 10 minutes later with generic versions and a discount card. "This brings it down to $42. I cried in the pharmacy parking lot. That evening, sitting in my car with my pills and a bottle of water from a gas station, I had my first panic attack. My chest tightened. My breath came in gasps. My hands tingled. For 15 minutes, I was certain I was dying. When it finally passed, I sat in the dark and realized something. Bradley wanted me to give up. He wanted me broken and defeated. He was probably waiting for me to die so he could inherit whatever scraps were left. I wasn't going to give him that satisfaction. Gerald called on Sunday, the day before the conservatorship hearing. "I've been working on your case without charging you. I can't let this injustice stand. But Scarlett, I need you to know the hearing tomorrow is going to be ugly. I'll be there." "Good. Wear your best clothes. Look put together. Don't lose your temper no matter what they say." I wore the same outfit I'd worn to my sister's funeral. A navy blue dress, pearl earrings, my good shoes. I'd washed my hair in the gas station bathroom and slept sitting up in my car so the dress wouldn't wrinkle. The courthouse was downtown, a gray stone building I'd passed 1,000 times but never entered. Gerald met me at the entrance. "One more thing," he said. "I'm filing a motion to postpone based on new evidence I'm pursuing, but if the judge denies it, we go forward today." The judge denied it. The hearing lasted 45 minutes. Bradley's lawyer, a sharp-faced woman in an expensive suit, presented their case. Bradley testified that I'd been increasingly confused for months, that I'd called him repeatedly asking about things I'd just done, that I'd shown up at his apartment claiming it was mine and had to be escorted out by security, that I'd been living in my car, refusing help, refusing to see reason. Jennifer testified next, crying softly as she described how worried they were about me, how they'd tried to help, but I'd rejected them, how I'd broken into their home in the middle of the night and had to be arrested. "Wait, arrested?" Gerald leaned over. "You were arrested?" "No." "What is she talking about?" But Jennifer was still speaking, describing how terrified she'd been to wake up and find me in their bedroom, how the police had taken me away, how they'd decided not to press charges because they felt sorry for me. It was all lies. Every word. But it was under oath, and the judge was listening carefully. Then it was my turn. Gerald had coached me, but standing there, looking at my son who wouldn't meet my eyes, I felt something break inside me. "Everything they've said is a lie," I said. "Bradley forged documents to steal my apartment and my savings. He's trying to have me declared incompetent so I can't fight back." "Mrs. Patterson," the judge said, "do you have evidence of these claims?" "The deed was forged. My signature was forged. But the original deed is missing from county records." "Missing or never existed?" "It existed. I bought that apartment in 1993. I have the mortgage statements, the tax records." "Where are these documents?" "In my apartment, which they won't let me access." The judge looked at Bradley's lawyer. "Your client is refusing access to documents?" "Your Honor, Mrs. Patterson broke into the apartment and was arrested for burglary. My clients have a restraining order preventing her from returning. They're happy to provide any documents she needs, but she must request them through proper legal channels. Another lie. There was no restraining order, no arrest, but I had no way to prove it in this moment. The judge reviewed the papers in front of her. Mrs. Patterson, I'm going to order a full psychological evaluation before making a final decision. In the meantime, I'm granting temporary conservatorship to Bradley Patterson for your safety. No. The word came out louder than I intended. Your Honor, please. He's stealing from me. This is exactly what he wants. Mrs. Patterson, you were living in your car. You had a heart attack. According to these medical records, you have no income, no housing, no support system. Your son is offering to help you. He's offering to control me. The judge's expression softened slightly. I understand this is difficult, but the evaluation will give us clarity. 30 days. Then we'll reconvene. The gavel came down. I walked out of the courthouse in a daze. Gerald caught up to me on the steps. I'm sorry. I tried. What does temporary conservatorship mean exactly? It means for the next 30 days, Bradley has legal control over your finances and medical decisions. He can access your accounts, make decisions about your care. You can challenge it at the next hearing, but for now, it's in effect. So Bradley had won. He'd stolen my home, my money, and now he had the legal right to do it. I was walking back to my car when someone called my name. I turned to see Frank, the security guard, jogging toward me. Mrs. Patterson, wait. I stopped. Frank looked nervous, glancing around like he was afraid of being seen. I need to talk to you, not here. Can you meet me somewhere? We met at a diner 2 blocks away. Frank ordered coffee he didn't drink and leaned across the table. I've been feeling terrible about what happened, so I started looking at the security footage from the building. Mrs. Patterson, I have proof that they're lying. My heart jumped. What kind of proof? Footage of Bradley and Jennifer moving into your apartment while you were gone. Footage of them bringing in a notary to forge documents. Footage of Bradley taking your mail, including bank statements. I can testify. I can provide copies of the footage. For the first time in weeks, I felt hope. Frank, this could change everything. I know. That's why I want to help. Can you have your lawyer contact me? We exchanged information. Frank promised to preserve the footage and prepare a statement. I left the diner feeling like, maybe, just maybe, I had a chance. That feeling lasted exactly 6 hours. At 8 that evening, Frank called me. His voice was shaking. Mrs. Patterson, I'm so sorry. I've been fired. What? The building manager called me in. Said I was being terminated for misuse of security systems. He said if I pursue this, if I provide any footage or testimony, I'll be sued for violating privacy laws and illegal surveillance. But you were doing your job. Reviewing security footage is your job. He said I was accessing footage without proper authorization. Mrs. Patterson, the footage is gone. It's been erased from the system. All of it. 6 months of recordings, just gone. How is that possible? Someone with administrative access deleted it. I think it was the building manager. I think someone paid him. Frank's voice cracked. I have a wife, 2 kids. I can't afford a lawsuit. I can't risk this. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. He hung up. I sat in my car and felt the last piece of hope crumble. They'd systematically eliminated every avenue of proof. They'd thought of everything. The next morning, I drove to the county clerk's office. Maybe I could talk to Phyllis Henderson directly, appeal to her conscience. But when I arrived, a different clerk was at the desk. When I asked for Phyllis, the woman's expression turned cold. Miss Henderson is unavailable. If you need assistance, I can help you. I need to speak with her about missing property records. What property? I gave her the address of my apartment. She typed into her computer, then looked up at me with barely concealed hostility. Miss Henderson left instructions that if you came in, I was to inform you that harassing county employees is a crime. If you continue to make these claims, she'll file a restraining order. I'm not harassing anyone. I'm trying to find my deed. There is no deed under your name for that address. There never has been. Now please leave before I call security." I left. I tried one more thing. I tracked down the notary who'd helped forge the documents. His name was Craig Sullivan, and according to public records, he worked out of an office in a strip mall near the highway. When I showed up, a receptionist told me Craig wasn't available. "When will he be back?" "He's not taking new clients." "I'm not a new client. I need to speak with him about documents he notarized." The receptionist picked up the phone. "Sir, there's a woman here who says you notarized her documents." A pause. "Yes, I'll tell her." She hung up and looked at me with something like pity. "Mr. Sullivan says he's never met you. He suggests you contact a mental health professional if you're confused about your legal documents. He also says if you contact him again, he'll file harassment charges." I drove back to my car. That night, I received an eviction notice slipped under my windshield wiper. The parking garage management was kicking me out. Someone had complained about a person living in their vehicle. I had nowhere to go. Gerald couldn't help me. Frank couldn't help me. Every door was closing, and I was running out of options. I thought about giving up. I thought about how easy it would be to just stop fighting. Let Bradley have everything. Check myself into whatever facility he'd choose for me. Let it all go. But then I remembered something my husband used to say. "You're tougher than you think, Scarlett. You just haven't had to prove it yet." Maybe it was time to prove it. The conservatorship hearing had been on Monday. By Friday night, I'd reached a conclusion that felt both desperate and necessary. I needed that original deed from my apartment, and I needed it before the psychological evaluation in 30 days. Without proof of ownership, I had nothing. The thought formed slowly, reluctantly. I had to go back into the apartment. My apartment. At 2 a.m, when Bradley and Jennifer would be sleeping, I'd retrieve the deed from the safe they didn't know about, and I'd finally have evidence. It wasn't breaking and entering if it was your own home, I told myself. But legally, after the court hearing, I knew it was more complicated than that. I didn't let myself think about consequences. I thought about the fireproof safe installed in my bedroom closet, hidden behind a panel my late husband had built. Bradley had never known about it. Inside that safe was the original deed, my mother's wedding ring, my birth certificate, every important document I owned. Saturday night became Sunday morning. At 1:45, I drove to my building. The parking garage attendant was different now, not Chris who'd called the ambulance. This one was reading something on his phone, barely looked up when I drove past. I parked on the 3rd level and took the stairs to avoid cameras in the elevator. My heart hammered against my ribs. The stairwell door on my floor opened with a soft click. The hallway was silent. Apartment 412. My home for 32 years. I'd been on the building's board of directors for 8 years. I knew the maintenance access code because I'd helped choose it. I knew the master key was kept in the maintenance closet on each floor in case of emergencies. The maintenance closet opened easily. The key hung on a pegboard, labeled clearly. My hands shook as I took it. At my apartment door, I paused. This was the moment. Once I used that key, there was no going back. But what choice did I have? Everything I needed was inside. The key turned smoothly. The door opened without sound. I stepped into darkness, closing the door behind me with barely a click. The apartment smelled like Jennifer's perfume and Bradley's expensive cologne. In the dim light from the windows, I could see their furniture, their things, their life built on top of mine. I moved through the living room carefully, avoiding the coffee table, the chair, the lamp I didn't recognize. The hallway to the bedrooms was darker. I felt my way along the wall, counting doors. Bathroom, guest room, master bedroom. The bedroom door was open. I could hear breathing, 2 people sleeping. I froze, waiting for my eyes to adjust. Bradley was on the left side, the side his father used to sleep on. Jennifer was on the right, my side. The closet was just inside the door, to the right. 3 steps. I could do this in 3 steps. 1 step. The floor didn't creak. 2 steps. My breathing sounded loud in my ears. 3 steps. My hand found the closet door handle. It opened silently. Inside, I felt along the wall for the panel. There. My fingers found the tiny catch. The panel slid aside. The safe was exactly where it should be. I dialed the combination by feel. 17, 33, 9. My birthday. The day my husband proposed. Our anniversary. The safe opened. Inside, I felt folders, boxes, papers. I pulled everything out, stuffing it into the canvas shopping bag I'd brought. The deed had to be here. It had to be. My fingers found the blue folder. That was it. The deed, the title insurance, all the closing documents from 1993. I pulled it out, along with my mother's jewelry box, my birth certificate, everything I could grab. Then a light blazed on. Jennifer stood in the doorway, phone in her hand, hair wild around her face. "I'm calling the police. You're breaking into our home." I straightened up, clutching the bag. "This is my home. These are my documents from my safe." "There's no safe. You're stealing." Jennifer's voice was loud, deliberately loud. Bradley stirred, then sat up. "What's going on?" He saw me and his eyes widened. Then a smile spread across his face, slow and satisfied. "Mom, what are you doing here? Getting my property back by breaking into our apartment? At 2 in the morning?" He got out of bed, pulling on a robe. "Jennifer, call the police." "I already did." She held up her phone. "They're on their way. Bradley, please. Just let me take these documents. They're mine. You don't even know about the safe. Just let me go, and we'll pretend this never happened." "Let you go?" "Mom, you broke into our home. You're stealing our property." He gestured at the bag. "What's in there?" "Documents from the safe your father installed. My deed, my personal papers." "What safe?" "There's no safe in this closet. You're making things up again." Bradley took a step toward me. "Give me the bag." "No, Mom." His voice hardened. "Give me the bag or I'll take it from you." I held it tighter. Bradley reached for it. I jerked back. He grabbed the strap. We struggled for a moment, and then I heard fabric rip. The bag split. Papers cascaded onto the floor. Jennifer was on the floor immediately, gathering them. "Bradley, look! Jewelry, cash. She was robbing us." "That's my mother's jewelry. That's my emergency money from the safe." "What safe?" Bradley kept saying it. "There's no safe. You broke in to steal." Footsteps in the hallway. Heavy. Quick. 2 police officers appeared in the doorway, hands on their belts. "Police. What's going on here?" Jennifer stood up, still holding papers and my mother's pearl necklace. She was crying. Actual tears streaming down her face. We woke up and found her in our bedroom. She was stealing from us. One officer looked at me. "Ma'am, do you live here?" "I own this apartment." "I was getting my property from my safe." The other officer looked at Bradley. "Sir, is this your residence?" "Yes, officer. This is my mother. She's been having some problems. Dementia, we think." She broke in. "We have a restraining order against her." "There's no restraining order," I said. "That's a lie." Bradley walked to the nightstand and pulled out a document. He handed it to the officer. "Emergency protective order, granted Thursday after she tried to assault my wife at the grocery store." I'd never seen that document before. I'd certainly never assaulted anyone. But the officer was reading it, nodding. "Ma'am, you're in violation of this order. You're not supposed to be within 500 feet of these people. That order is fake. This whole thing is fake. They forged it just like they forged the deed." The officers exchanged glances. The one holding the protective order looked at me with that expression I'd come to know, pity mixed with suspicion. "Ma'am, I need you to come with us. I'm the victim here. They've stolen my home, my money, everything. We can sort that out at the station. Right now, you're under arrest for breaking and entering in violation of a protective order." They put handcuffs on me. Actually handcuffs, metal and cold, tight around my wrists. As they led me out, I looked back. Bradley was picking up the papers from the floor. My deed was right there. He saw me looking at it and smiled. "Take care, Mom. I hope you get the help you need." The police station was bright fluorescent lights and plastic chairs. They took my fingerprints. My photograph. They asked me questions I answered truthfully, knowing it sounded insane. They put me in a cell. I spent the night on a metal bench with a thin mattress. At 8 in the morning, a public defender showed up. His name was Marcus Webb. He looked about 30, tired, carrying a briefcase that had seen better days. "Mrs. Patterson, I've been assigned to your case. The charges are serious. Breaking and entering, burglary, violation of a protective order. I was in my own home, getting my own documents from my own safe." Marcus flipped through papers. "According to property records, Bradley Patterson owns that apartment. According to court records, there's a conservatorship in place and a protective order. Mrs. Patterson, the evidence against you is substantial. The evidence is forged. Can you prove that?" I couldn't. That was the problem. I couldn't prove anything. "The district attorney is willing to offer a plea deal. You plead guilty to trespassing, reduced charge. You'll likely get probation and mandatory counseling." "No, I won't plead guilty to trying to access my own property," Marcus sighed. "Then we'll have to go to trial. That won't be for about 6 weeks. In the meantime, bail is set at $5,000. I don't have $5,000. I don't have $5. Then you'll stay here until trial." But I didn't stay there. Somehow, bail was paid. Marcus told me an anonymous donor had covered it. Later, I learned it was Gerald, who'd used his own credit card. When I walked out of jail on Monday afternoon, I'd missed the psychological evaluation appointment for the conservatorship case, which meant the judge would rule based on Bradley's evidence alone. Gerald called me that evening. "Scarlett, I have some news. The conservatorship was granted. Permanent conservatorship. Bradley has full control over your finances and medical decisions." I sat down on the curb outside the homeless shelter where I was supposed to check in for a bed. So that's it. I lost. The burglary case is separate. We can still fight that. And if we can prove the conservatorship was based on fraud, we can overturn it. But Scarlett, I have to be honest. Right now, things look very bad. Very bad. That was an understatement. I had no home, no money, criminal charges pending. My son had legal control over my life, and I had no way to prove any of it was wrong. I'd reached the absolute bottom. There was nowhere left to fall. The homeless shelter on Madison Avenue had rules. Check in by 7, lights out by 9, no alcohol, no drugs, no violence. Breakfast at 6, out by 8. I stood in line with 40 other women, most younger than me, holding my suitcase and wondering how my life had come to this. The bed was narrow and hard. The woman next to me coughed all night. I didn't sleep. Marcus, my public defender, called on Tuesday. "I've reviewed your case more thoroughly. Mrs. Patterson, I have to advise you that going to trial is risky. If convicted, you're looking at 2 to 5 years in prison, given your age and the violation of the protective order. So you want me to plead guilty to crimes I didn't commit. I want you to accept reality. The evidence against you is overwhelming. You were caught in the apartment. They have a protective order. They have a deed showing ownership. Your best option is the plea deal." "No," Marcus sighed. "Trial is set for 6 weeks from now. I'll prepare the best defense I can, but I need you to understand the odds." I understood. I just didn't care anymore. Wednesday afternoon, Gerald called. His voice was different, excited. "Scarlett, I need you to sit down. I've been investigating Jennifer's background, trying to find anything we can use. And I found something. Something big." "What?" "Jennifer is still married to someone else." I didn't understand at first. "What do you mean?" "I mean she's legally married to a man named Todd Franklin. She married him in Nevada 7 years ago. There's no record of divorce, which means her marriage to Bradley 3 years ago is invalid. She's a bigamist." The pieces started clicking together in my mind. If her marriage to Bradley isn't legal, then any documents she signed as his spouse are worthless. Gerald finished. The property transfers, the power of attorney papers, everything. She had no legal authority to sign any of it. Are you sure? I contacted Todd Franklin. He lives in Reno. He confirmed they never divorced. He's willing to testify. Scarlett, this changes everything. For the first time in weeks, I felt something other than despair. What do we do? I'm filing emergency motions in both cases. This evidence proves fraud. We're also contacting the district attorney's office about criminal charges against Jennifer, Bradley, and Harold Chen. Will they listen? They have to. Bigamy is a crime. Fraud is a crime. Once we present this evidence, the DA will have to investigate. Things moved quickly after that. Gerald filed his motions on Thursday. By Friday, the district attorney's office had opened an investigation. The DA, a woman named Sandra Morrison, called me directly. Mrs. Patterson, we're looking into your case. The bigamy charge is serious. We're also investigating potential fraud, forgery, and conspiracy charges. I need to ask you some questions. I told her everything. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. Mrs. Patterson, if what you're saying is true, this is one of the most elaborate elder abuse schemes I've seen. Give me a week. That week felt like a year. But on the following Thursday, Sandra Morrison called again. We've completed our preliminary investigation. We're filing charges against Jennifer Patterson, Bradley Patterson, Harold Chen, and Craig Sullivan. The notary? He cooperated in exchange for immunity. He's provided testimony that Harold Chen paid him $20,000 to forge your signature on multiple documents. He's also provided copies of those documents before he notarized them, showing they were blank when Harold brought them in. What about Phyllis at the county clerk's office? She's also cooperating. Harold bribed her with $15,000 to alter the digital records and remove the paper deed. She's returning the money and providing testimony in exchange for reduced charges. I couldn't speak. It was really happening. They were finally going to face consequences. What happens now? We've issued arrest warrants. Bradley and Jennifer will be arrested today. Harold is already in custody. The court is reviewing your conservatorship case. Given the evidence of fraud, it will almost certainly be overturned. Your burglary charges are being dropped. And Mrs. Patterson, I'm sorry. Sorry this happened to you. And sorry it took so long to uncover. The next few days were a blur of phone calls and meetings. Gerald filed motions to overturn the conservatorship. The judge reviewed the evidence of bigamy and fraud and immediately dissolved Bradley's conservatorship. I was legally in control of my own life again. The police returned my documents and jewelry. Frank, the security guard, had been rehired and provided backup footage he'd secretly saved to a personal drive before being fired. That footage showed everything. Bradley and Jennifer moving in, the forged documents, all of it. Bradley was arrested at work. Jennifer was arrested at a spa. Harold turned himself in after his lawyer advised him to cooperate. Bradley tried to claim Jennifer had manipulated him, that he didn't know about the bigamy, that she'd convinced him I was actually mentally ill and he was helping me. The DA wasn't buying it. The civil case moved forward simultaneously. I sued Bradley, Jennifer, and Harold for theft, fraud, and emotional distress. Gerald was confident we'd win, but there was one problem: my apartment. Before being arrested, Bradley and Jennifer had emptied it. Everything I owned, every piece of furniture, every photograph, my mother's china, my grandmother's quilt, 32 years of memories, all gone. They'd either sold it or destroyed it out of pure spite. The apartment was empty when the police let me back in. Completely empty. Just bare walls and carpet. I stood in the middle of my living room and cried. Not because I'd lost things, though that hurt, but because I'd lost my son. Whatever Bradley had been, whatever good I'd seen in him, was gone. He'd chosen this path. He'd chosen to destroy me. The trial was swift. Bradley pleaded guilty to fraud and conspiracy to avoid additional charges. He was sentenced to 4 years in prison. Jennifer fought the charges but was convicted of bigamy, fraud, and conspiracy. 8 to 12 years. Harold took a plea deal: 2 years probation, $50,000 fine, and permanent disbarment. The civil case awarded me $370,000 in damages. Bradley's assets were seized. Harold's property had liens placed on it. Jennifer's family paid a settlement to make the lawsuit go away. It was over. Legally, financially, completely over. I'd won, but winning felt hollow standing in my empty apartment. 3 months after the trials ended, I stood in my apartment and looked at my new furniture. It wasn't the same as what I'd lost. Nothing could replace my grandmother's rocking chair or my mother's china. But it was mine, purchased with the settlement money, chosen carefully. A cream-colored sofa, comfortable and soft. A coffee table made of reclaimed wood that reminded me of my father's craftsmanship. Bookshelves filled with new books, and a few photographs I'd had digitally restored from copies. The walls were painted a warm beige, and I'd hung new art, including a watercolor I'd painted myself of the Golden Gate Bridge. It looked like a home again. My home. Gerald had called last week with the final numbers. After legal fees and court costs, I'd received $240,000. I'd used $50,000 to refurnish and repair the apartment. I'd put $100,000 into a trust that Gerald managed, safe from anyone who might try to access it. And I'd used the remaining $90,000 to establish the Scarlett Patterson Elder Protection Fund. The fund provided free legal assistance to seniors facing financial exploitation by family members. Gerald was on the board. So was Sandra Morrison, the DA. We'd already helped 3 people in the first 2 months. Frank, the security guard, had become an unexpected friend. We met for coffee every Thursday at the cafe in the building's lobby. He told me about his kids, his wife, his dreams of going back to school for a degree in criminal justice. I told him about my art classes, my volunteer work, my slowly rebuilding life. Paula had called, finally. She'd apologized for not believing me, for abandoning me when I needed her. I'd forgiven her, though our friendship would never be quite the same. Trust, once broken, is hard to fully repair. The apartment next door had new tenants, a young couple with a baby. I'd brought them cookies when they moved in. The woman, Sarah, was kind and reminded me a bit of what I'd once hoped Jennifer might be. A daughter, a friend. But I'd learned that family is what you build, not just what you're born into. I'd received one letter from Bradley. It came from the state prison 2 months into his sentence. The handwriting was his, familiar from birthday cards and childhood thank you notes. "Mom," it began. "I don't know how to say this, except to just say it. I'm sorry. Jennifer convinced me you wouldn't miss the money, that you were going to leave it to me anyway, that we were just taking what was rightfully mine a little early. But that's not true. That's not even close to true. I knew it was wrong. I did it anyway. I was greedy. I was stupid. I thought I deserved your home because I was your son. But I didn't deserve it. I didn't deserve you. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve that either. I just wanted you to know that I know what I did was wrong. I destroyed the best person in my life because I wanted money. I'll live with that for the rest of my life. I hope you're okay. I hope you've rebuilt. I hope someday you can remember me as the kid I was before I became this person. But I understand if you can't. Take care of yourself. Bradley." I'd read it 3 times. Then I'd torn it into small pieces and thrown it away. Maybe someday I'd be able to think about the child he'd been without the pain of what he'd become. But not yet. The wound was still too fresh. I'd started taking art classes at the community center on Tuesday evenings. Watercolors, my favorite medium. The instructor, an older gentleman named Arthur, said I had talent. Last week, I'd sold my first painting at a student showcase, $75. I'd framed the check instead of cashing it. I'd also started volunteering at a senior center, teaching a class on financial safety, how to recognize exploitation, how to protect yourself, what warning signs to watch for. The class was packed every week. Apparently, my story had made the local news, and people wanted to learn. One woman, probably in her 80s, had stayed after class last Thursday. My son has been asking me to sign papers, she'd said quietly. I didn't want to think it meant anything bad, but after hearing your story, I'm going to call a lawyer first. Good, I'd told her. Always get independent legal advice. Always. She'd hugged me. Thank you for being brave enough to share your story. You probably saved me from what happened to you. That was worth more than any settlement. On a Saturday morning in December, I woke up in my own bed, in my own apartment, and felt something I hadn't felt in almost a year. Peace. My phone rang. Gerald. Scarlett. I wanted to let you know. Jennifer's appealing her sentence, but it's not going anywhere. Harold completed his community service, and Bradley's up for parole in 18 months with good behavior. Okay, how do you feel about that? I feel fine. He's not my problem anymore. Good, that's healthy. Also, the fund helped another woman this week. Her daughter was trying to force her into a nursing home to get access to her house. We stepped in, got her a lawyer. The daughter backed off. That's wonderful. It is. You're making a real difference, Scarlett. After we hung up, I made coffee and sat by the window. The December sun was weak but warm on my face. Below, people walked past with shopping bags and coffee cups, heading to wherever Saturday was taking them. I thought about the woman I'd been a year ago. The woman who'd stood at this very apartment door, confused and afraid, watching her son steal her life. I thought about the weeks in the car, the heart attack, the jail cell, the absolute bottom I'd hit. And I thought about who I was now, stronger, wiser, alone in some ways, but surrounded by real friends in others. I'd lost my son, but I'd gained something more valuable, myself. They'd tried to take everything. My home, my money, my dignity, my freedom. They'd thought I was just an old lady who'd give up. Weak, confused, easy to manipulate. They'd been wrong. I'd fought back with everything I had. I'd lost battles but won the war. And in winning, I'd discovered something important. Age doesn't make you weak. Experience makes you powerful. When you've lived 67 years, survived a husband's death, raised a child alone, worked every day of your adult life, you're not someone who breaks easily. You're someone who endures. I finished my coffee and looked at my calendar. Tuesday was art class. Thursday was coffee with Frank and my financial safety class at the senior center. Saturday next week, I was taking a day trip to the coast with Paula, trying to rebuild that friendship one day at a time. My life wasn't what it had been. It was different. Smaller in some ways, fuller in others. But it was mine. Completely, legally, finally mine. And that was enough. I thought about Bradley sometimes. Wondered if prison was changing him or just making him bitter. I thought about Jennifer, still fighting her sentence, still refusing to accept responsibility. I thought about Harold, a retired judge who'd thrown away his reputation for his daughter's greed. But mostly, I thought about the future. About the people I could help with my story. About the art I wanted to create. About the life I was building, piece by piece, day by day. Every morning when I woke up in my own bed, in my own apartment, surrounded by my own things, I remembered. I won. Not just in court. Not just financially. I won by refusing to give up. By fighting when it seemed hopeless. By believing I deserved better even when everyone told me I was confused. I won by surviving. And if you're listening to this story, if you're facing something similar, if someone is trying to take advantage of you or hurt you or steal from you, I want you to know, you can survive too. You can fight back. You're stronger than you think. Don't let anyone convince you that you're too old, too confused, too weak to stand up for yourself. Don't let anyone steal your power by calling you names, or questioning your memory, or making you doubt yourself. And if you need help, ask for it. There are people like Gerald, like Sandra Morrison, like Frank, who will stand with you. There are resources, legal aid services, elder protection agencies. You don't have to fight alone. Family isn't always blood. Sometimes the people who hurt us most are the ones who are supposed to love us. But that doesn't mean we stop deserving love. It means we find it elsewhere. We build it with friends, with communities, with the families we choose. I'm 67 years old. I have gray hair and arthritis in my knees and a heart that's been through more than it should have. But I'm here. I'm fighting. I'm living. And that's my message to anyone who needs to hear it. Don't give up. Even when it's dark. Even when you're at the absolute bottom. Even when you've lost everything. You can rebuild. You can survive. You can win. I did. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever faced betrayal from someone you trusted? How did you find the strength to keep going? Leave a comment below and share your story. Your experience might help someone else who's struggling right now. If this story touched you or made you think, please hit that like button. It helps more people find these stories, and maybe, just maybe, help someone who needs to hear that they're not alone. And subscribe to this channel for more true stories about real people overcoming real challenges. Every week, we share stories of survival, strength, and triumph. Don't miss them. Finally, please share this video with someone who might need to hear it. Whether it's a friend, a family member, or someone in your community, sharing these stories creates awareness about elder abuse and helps protect vulnerable people. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being part of this community. And remember, you're stronger than you think, you're braver than you know, and you're never too old to fight for what's yours. Take care of yourselves, protect each other, and never, ever give up. Until next time,